then we're asking for a pathway to citizenship. Because I mean, one of the things that we've always learned, with even in the U.S. history, right? When you start with the U.S. history, the only citizens of this country were white men who had land. Then what happened next? And little by little, we started including new people into what does it mean to be a citizen, who could vote, who can vote, and now it's our turn, I guess, to feel the backlash of not being considered a whole person. So that's those are the reasons why we walk. And Juan, maybe you can talk about how you're fundraising.
Yeah. So I'm Juan Rodriguez. I was born in Bogota, Colombia. I came to the United States when I was 6 years old. My father brought me here with just, I mean, out of his dream, because he wanted his children to be okay. I mean, he's just like any other father. It's not any different. I feel like he just wanted the best for his kids, and part of that included making sure that we would get a good education, that we would live in a secure community, that we wouldn't have obstacles to keep us from moving forward in our careers and fulfilling our dreams. And his major fear was that I would have to grow up the way that he had grown up in Colombia, where more than 33% of all the world's kidnappings occur every year, where like our home had been broken into 2 or 3 times every year. We had a woman that worked at our house who helped to clean, and sometimes she would babysit us. And there were times that we would come home and she was tied inside a closet and she had been mutilated and different things like that. And so he just felt like that this isn't the type of world that I want my kids to grow up in. I don't want them to live in fear, and I don't want to live with the terror that any day I could come to pick them up at the school and they're not there, and then on the weekend I get a call from someone asking me for ransom money. So that's how I ended up here, and soon after I came, the rest of my family came for the same reasons. My aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. In the beginning, there were 13 of us living in a 2-bedroom house in Homestead, Florida, because we all had to leave our countries in a spur of the moment. We barely had any changes of clothes. So we started out with the bare minimum that we could put together, and then coming here, there's also the issue of your college degrees in your country no longer apply here. So my family members, as they tried to seek employment, all of a sudden they're at the bottom of the ladder again, and the only jobs that they could get at that time without any papers was selling water bottles on the street, selling flowers at the gas station, working in maintenance for hotels and for different office complexes. And so, I mean, I just kept seeing how hard every single one of them were working so that the kids in the family, we wouldn't have to worry about any of those problems. And I felt like, well, what I need to make sure is that I do my part, and my part is focusing on school, because all I do is wake up in the morning, go to school, come home, my dinner's ready, and so I always tried to be the best student that I could possibly be. And if you look at my academic record from second grade when I arrived in this country until I graduated, I never got more than 5 B's total for those 10 years. And so when I got to senior year of high school, I started out senior year as the valedictorian of the school. But senior year was also the hardest year for me, because it was a year where, despite the fact that I had been president of various organizations, that I had done hundreds and hundreds of community service hours, I had gone out to seek letters of recommendations from my professors. I sent out a general message to professors that I had before my senior year, and I started getting letters as far back as my 5th and 6th grade teachers telling me, I always saw you as a son, and seeing you succeed up until this point has taught me that I did a good job as a teacher. And they always wrote to me like that, like I was their own child. And so I felt like, I've worked my entire life building up all of these things to build this portfolio, to build, this file of credentials that they always ask for, in order to be competitive. And I have everything ready, but then senior year comes around and all of a sudden this whole concept comes up of being undocumented, and why don't you have a social, and where is your visa, and why don't you just go down the street to the Social Security office and become a citizen? And a lot of people didn't, first of all, I didn't even understand what any of those things meant. And when I finally was able to speak to an immigration lawyer, he told me, well, the problem is that you were brought here as a minor, and now that you've turned 18 and you can make decisions for yourself, there's no longer anything that you can apply for, because you're supposed to apply for things in the first couple of years that you're here. So there's nothing for you. There's absolutely no pathway for you to get legalized. So that means you're not going to be able to get a driver's license. You're not going to be able to work. I applied to the same universities that all of my friends in the AP classes and the honors classes applied to, and they were able to go off to Yale and to Duke and to University of Michigan and University of Chicago and UF and all these places. Me, I just kept getting letters from people saying, you have all the qualities of a student that we've always looked for, but until you resolve your immigration status, we can't allow you to register for classes. So please call us back once you have that resolved. We'll send you our house phone number if that's what it takes, because we need you to call us back. We want a student like you at our school. And it was always without any papers, you just can't, and we don't know how we could let you do that. So really, I mean, those are some of the struggles that we kept facing. And once we entered the immigrant rights movement, people all over the country, every